So here we go. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom! And welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Dirty Duck Coffee. If your coffee sucks, it's not the duck. Well, I've already screwed this up.
There's number one.
I am Jeff Stanfield with the world famous Andy Shaver.
There's the one.
Yeah, I always do it too. Today with us from Havana, Illinois, waterfowl biologist Josh Osborn. I didn't jack that part up at least.
How are you, sir?
Sounds good. I'm good. How are y'all?
We are doing wonderful. It is going to be another 100-degree day here in Texas, but we can't complain. We got a lot of rain, so things are looking good on that front. The problem
Believe it or not,
the next drought just started.
Yeah, we're supposed to hit 100 degrees here today too, I think.
Yeah, but your 100 degrees comes with 80% humidity.
Well, sometimes. So I'm from North Mississippi originally, and I moved up here. I'm in my 20s, and it can get pretty humid up here. You know, we're in these river bottoms and, cornfields and stuff. So it gets a little humid up here sometimes, but it's nowhere near what it is down there, at least for the duration anyway.
We had a lot of Mexican tree ducks here first part of May, mid-May.
Tons of them.
I'm not seeing them anymore. They were all in town. I don't know if they finally figured out, hey, there's no city lakes or anything like that.
There was 2 at the lodge yesterday.
Right.
But that's the only 2 I had seen. We had a storm hit around.
They have left town.
We had a storm like June 5th or 6th.
Yeah.
And since then I hadn't seen them. I seen them in my backyard every night, around my pool every night, and just they've disappeared. And that's the first 2 that have been around that I've known of in the last couple weeks. And we got a pair of Egyptian geese here that are nesting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you're probably talking about black belly whistling ducks, right?
Yep.
So there's last couple of decades, it seems like they're kind of moving further and further north. We get them here in Illinois. We've got breeding black bellies here in Illinois and portions of the state along the rivers. So it's a pretty cool species.
Yeah, I kind of figured it would happen just because the town that we're in it doesn't have any water in the town. So when they were here, I was like, man, how is this sustainable? Because they were like roosting in trees in my neighborhood, and a couple times I saw them on power lines like right outside my front door, and I was like, man, it's cool to have them here, but I know that it's not a long-term play. They got to go somewhere where there's water if they're going to nest.
Right. Yeah. It's cool either way, right? I mean, they're going to find water. If that means moving further north and kind of expanding their range, then that's cool too.
Yeah.
It's kind of shows a little bit more of a loose breeding phenology of these birds. You know, maybe they move around a little bit more.
Yeah. I've heard they don't play nicely to decoys. I've heard that they don't decoy very well. I don't have any personal experience with them. We had some during teal season here last year, and I mean, obviously, I wasn't really focusing on them, but they left by the time regular duck season rolled around. So, but somebody was telling me that they don't decoy very well.
Yeah, I've heard that too. But my only experience with them has been, like you said, during teal season in Mississippi, and you know, they didn't mind decoying at all then. But you know, that was, you know, they haven't, not a lot of disturbance going on the ground then. So we may have just been where they wanted to be anyway. But it's tough to say. I've very, very limited experience in and around. I've harvested a couple in, you know, South Louisiana and stuff, but yeah, there's been birds here. So we're on Chautauqua National Wildlife Refuge, is actually where the field station is that I work at. And there's this creek that runs alongside of it, and there's been black bellies harvested here before.
Oh, wow.
During regular duck season. I mean, I've never seen them up here, but they are. It happens. Any duck can be fooled, I guess.
Yeah, I guess all it takes is one dumb one. Did y'all when you shot the duck in Louisiana, did y'all eat it?
Yeah.
Tastes just like a regular duck.
Yep. Wood duck. I mean, in my opinion, I thought it was good. Thought it was pretty good table fare, but I think most ducks are good table fare. Even the divers that a lot of people don't eat, I like. I don't have a problem with them.
Yeah,
it's been a crazy spring here. I went out the other day by one of the playa lakes. Me and Michelle did, and I'm just after a big rain, and I saw a red-headed drake.
Mm-hmm.
I saw 24 blue-winged teal paired up together. I saw shovelers, I saw mallards, Egyptian geese, and Mexican tree ducks all within about 30 minutes the other day.
Right.
And that blows my mind for us to have it in West Texas in the spring. But we are so wet and we've got so much water that we've had a ton of teal that have nested here. So I'm going to be curious to see what which we should have a great teal season anyways. When we have this much water, we usually kill a lot of teal anyways. But
Sure.
I have yet to see a clutch of birds together, babies. Our quail, I hear quail every time you walk out of the lodge. Now you hear quail. We haven't heard that in 3 or 4 years either. Cue all the phone calls from everybody that's going to call me about booking quail hunts. We ain't doing quail hunts. I'm telling you right now, because I have seen us before in the spring have quail everywhere, and then on the 1st of November we have a freak front in October or something happens, and then the quail are all gone again.
Sure.
But I have seen a lot of birds here.
The teal thing's cool, right? Because they kind of have this large kind of where we think they used to breed across all these prairies, like even further down into Arkansas and Texas and stuff. So that's a cool thing. We do get some breeding blue wings here. Still, we did a nest study. It's a number of years ago, but on a nature conservancy property, a privately owned property here, and we were doing some nest dragging, and we found quite a few blue-winged teal nests. But I don't know, teal are kind of my favorite species to shoot at. I enjoy
a blast.
Teal,
and it's over quick enough too, to where like you can just get on with the rest of your day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can go out there. You got 30 minutes of hunting maybe. And then you're back in time. You can clean them up and then go watch football the rest of the day.
Yeah. Go watch football. Go to work. Whatever. It's a fun hunt.
Yeah, and it's
still warm.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. We had a couple years ago. We were teal hunting one of our places, and the sun was just barely coming up. It was almost shooting time, but not quite. And then, so we're all hiding in like cattails and tall weeds and stuff. And we're just kind of hunkered down. And one of the guys is like, "What's that swimming out there in the water?" And I'm like, "I don't know what that is." And then I look up and he's like, "Oh shit, there's something behind it too." And it was 2 water snakes. I don't know what kind of snakes, but they were coming. They were making a beeline. If they would have kept swimming, like if they would have kept coming, they would have went right between my legs. I've got my dog.
Those guys should have never said a word to you.
We're all in the weeds, and like they just start shooting these freaking snakes. Well, now my dog. So now we got 2 dead snakes basically right underneath the spinner. So my dog's got to run past them every time to go get the ducks. And like I'm worried because like even after you kill a snake, like it can still snap at you and all this other shit. I'm like, if that's a water moccasin, my dog's gonna get bit retrieving the damn teal.
You're such a pansy about shit.
And I'm so much of a coward that I'm not gonna go out there and remove the snakes from the decoy. So it's like, sorry about you, dog. Like, go do what you do.
I had a dog retrieve a snake one time.
No.
Yeah. So summertime. This is my dog Delta. She was a little bitty thing, but she was a firecracker, man. And we were visiting family down in North Mississippi, and we were just kind of walking along one of the state parks there, J.P. Coleman State Park, and I was throwing bumpers for her. And it wasn't bumpers, it was sticks. I was throwing sticks for her. And she came back, and I was just, we were pretty much over it at that point. So I wasn't really paying a whole lot of attention to what she was doing. And she came back, and she came up out of the water, and I just saw. I was like, "Well, that stick's moving."
Oh no!
Sure enough, she had a snake in her mouth. It was a cotton. Like, it's probably not the best thing in the world. And so I luckily I was close enough to her, I could just grab it and throw it in the water. But yeah, we had. So I'm a member of the local chapter of the Hunting Retriever Club here, and we had a had a handler at our hunt test in May that had a dog that picked up a snake during the hunt test. I think.
Oh my goodness!
Talking about it. Yeah.
So you
so it happened.
You picked up the snakes. That you picked up the snake?
Yeah.
Oh no!
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't want my dog to get bit.
Oh, no way, man.
I can't. I don't like snakes no more than Andy does.
I'm petrified of snakes. Like I have an unnatural fear of snakes.
Sure. They serve a purpose. You know, they're just out there doing their thing. They're not trying to hurt anybody.
That's what everybody says, but I'm different. Every snake's a dead snake. They're all rattle cobras to me. I hate a snake. They scare me. And now, the other day,
I mean, I don't want to be around them,
right.
but I'm not.
Right.
I don't have like an unhealthy. You know,
mine's very unhealthy. And I realize that.
I let a snake live the other day for the first time in my life. I was driving down the road and I turned and so I wasn't going very fast. And there was a big old snake in the road, and it was a bull snake.
Oh, you got to let them go.
And I let it go instead of running it over. But because I knew it wasn't a rattlesnake. Now, if I'd have been going 70 miles an hour and I didn't have time to make that assumption, I'd have ran over it because I do it on purpose all the time. Yeah. But I knew it wasn't a rattlesnake, so I let it go. But there ain't no way I'm letting a rattlesnake go anytime. Every time I see one, I'm getting rid of that sucker. But, you talked about your dog retrieving the snake. My dad had a dog that would go get skunks.
Oh, that's bad.
And he told me one time, he said, boy, I had to make a decision. I had to decide what I was going to do. I didn't know if I wanted to shoot the dog with the skunk or hopefully he'd let the skunk go so I could shoot it. But he said, I screamed and hollered. But it all started, he did it one time, and Dad shocked him and beat the piss out of him. And Dad said after that, he said, I think the dog thought he wasn't retrieving them fast enough, so he'd always go get a skunk everywhere he'd go.
Yeah. So same dog. I did everything wrong with this dog training. And so it's just a little bitty thing. I drove down to Mississippi, got her. This is right after I'd started work here, and picked her up, brought her back up here, and it was November, I think. And I was still finishing up my master's degree, like in the evenings and the weekends, and so I was working super late one night, and had her in my office with me, and I walked her out. And we're kind of in the middle, if you can imagine, kind of in the middle of nowhere out here. We got cornfields on one side of us and the refuge on the other side. And so she runs out the door, and I just kind of turned her loose because it's midnight or whatever time it was. There was nobody here. And I had an older dog out with her too, and opened the door to let him in, and it just hit me in the face. Like she got out there and got sprayed by a skunk, and she was maybe 10 weeks old, and it was just miserable. I don't care what anybody says. You can't really wash that stuff out.
No.
Everybody has their own little potion and kind of recipe or whatever, but you're not getting it all out. So that was her introduction to other critters. Was a skunk spraying her right in the face.
My first year of marriage, so we got married in October, and I had a dog that did not hunt. I had him in high school, and anyway, he didn't hunt or anything. So he was our pet. He was a black lab, and married in October. November, I'm going to guy to hunt. So it's like 4:00 in the morning. I'm getting up. I let him go out. I air him, and I come back. I let him in, and he just runs past me, going back into the house. No big deal. Well, I'm here. So my first year of marriage, we lived at the lodge. There's a old house here, and that's where me and my wife lived.
Called the Skunk House. And I'm at breakfast that day, and my wife comes tromping over, and she is pissed. Boudreaux got sprayed by a skunk, and you just let him back in the house, and he jumped in bed with me, and now the bed sheets smell like skunk, and I got skunk all over me. Well, I didn't smell him when he ran by. I just threw him in the house, shut the door, and went on about my day. Oh my God.
It was bad.
There's nothing
That's
worse
bad.
than getting your ass chewed out on something you didn't do anything wrong about. You didn't know.
Right.
So now it's
And
like,
that happens more than not when you own dogs.
Yeah.
Or you're married.
yeah. So now it's like,
That too.
I've got 8 guys that are ready to go on a goose hunt, and I've got a dog that's got skunk all over him, and I got a pissed off new wife at the house. It's like, what do I do?
Right.
So luckily, I was hunting with another guy. He went, I like you said, you did the I can't remember, like baking soda and hydrogen peroxide and Dawn or something like that, and like just muted the flavors that were going on them just a little bit to where I think I threw him in a kennel that we had here, but. So they went and set everything up. I gave him a quick bath and met them at the field, but ooh, she was mad that day. She thought I did it on purpose.
Well, like, why would you do that shit on? No man in his right mind wants an ass chewing. Nobody
That's
ever
right.
does crap to their wife to cause problems. Because I get my ass chewed over some shit sometime, and I'm like, I wouldn't do that shit on purpose. I mean, it's a double standard, big time on marriage. I'm telling you right now.
Well, and what person in their right mind wants to deal with the skunk smell? You know, there's no possible way that anybody living would do that on purpose to a dog.
If she would have let the dog out and he got sprayed and come back, Andy would not blame her a bit on it. It'd be like, damn, dog got sprayed by a skunk. But it's a complete different mindset. You did it on purpose. Like, you went out and said, Boudreaux, I want you to go get sprayed by a skunk so I can get my ass chewed out before I go on a hunt.
And then go jump in bed with my wife and roll around on my pillow that's now open, which is exactly where he went. He went to my side of the bed because that's the side that was open. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I did that on purpose.
I think tomato juice helps with dogs. Yeah. I think that's one of the things. I don't think nobody knows for sure, but that is an old wives' tale too. Tomato juice, hydrogen peroxide.
I think
I've tried it. So the hydrogen peroxide and Dawn soap and whatever else, that seemed to be the one that kind of worked. Like it like you used the word muted. I feel like that's a pretty good explanation, or description. It kind of just mutes the scent a little bit to where it's not so bad. But I'm not so sure at some point, like, you've just smelled the skunk smell long enough that your nose just becomes a little bit more used to it than that first visceral reaction that you have to it. You know?
My dad's dog Hacksaw was his name. He would go fetch a skunk up. I mean, I'm telling you, it didn't matter where you go. If there was a skunk, he was going to find it. That dog, by the time he was 5 years old, was freaking red from all the hydrogen peroxide he'd had washed on it. He had a red tint to him from the stuff. So. Now, do you fly the airplane or do you just ride in the plane when y'all do bird counts?
No, so we contract that out. We have Mike Cruz is his name, Cruz Aviation. Mike is he's a crop duster here in Central Illinois, and so we contract him out, and he flies us around, and I just count. The way that we fly it, I don't think it's really possible to do it safely. Because there's a couple of different styles. There's transect style. So if you basically put a bunch of straight lines and you randomly pick those lines and fly those particular lines and count the number of birds that you see, and then you extrapolate those numbers. That's a loose kind of description of a transect style. We fly a cruise style, which is basically everything. So we have these known locations, these refuges now that we fly, and we fly the same refuges every week and try to count everything that's there. And our landscape here makes that the best choice for us because we're so ag dominated here. Everything is kind of in and around the river. The birds are really concentrated here, and we feel like we can do that. In fact, a lot of the studies that we've done has proven that that's a pretty accurate estimation of at least the trend in the population that's coming through here. And so Mike flies. He's very good at what he does, and we count.
Right. So how, like, you'll have 50,000 geese on a refuge or something, and or y'all will say 50,000. What is that within 10%? What's the degree there?
Plus or minus?
Yeah, 10%.
Yeah, so it just depends on species. So we did a study on that too. One of our staff members now, Andy Gilbert, for his master's degree, he did research looking at the disturbance of the airplane. So were we pushing birds out of areas? It turns out that we're really not, or at least when we do push birds, they come right back to the same spot. And he was also looking at visibility bias. So how many of the birds are we counting for sure? And so how we did that is we had ground counts, or ground counters that would go out, and we would define an area and say, okay, we feel like from the ground we can count 100% of the birds in this set area. Hey, and Aaron, my predecessor, Aaron Yetter, was flying at the time. And hey, Aaron, here's the spot we want you to count. And here's these 6 or 7 spots this week that we want you to count. And so what we found is we're in the neighborhood of 94 to 95% accurate on species and total number too. It's difficult because we're flying 100, 150 feet off the ground. You're flying 160, 180 miles an hour, whatever it is. But you get pretty good at estimating numbers. So you get pretty good at figuring out what 100 birds looks like, and from that, what 500 birds looks like, and from that, what 1,000 birds looks like. And so when you get up those higher numbers, 100,000, 150,000, whatever it is, and you have a pretty, 5% is a lot. Right. 5% is a lot of birds, and so we feel pretty confident in those numbers. It's not, by no means is it perfect. It's never going to be perfect. No matter what we do, even if this drone technology kind of moves forward and we're able to use those sometime in the future, it's never going to be perfect what we do. And you can say that for most of the waterfowl research world, all of the waterfowl research world.
Are people starting to move more towards the drone technology and utilizing that bit of new technology that's kind of coming on the landscape?
Yeah, so we're trying, right? So there's multiple studies going on right now. They just finished one up in Missouri, I think last year or the year before. The problem is the way drones are regulated and the technology. So the technologies, we fly 214 miles of the Illinois River and 212 miles of the Mississippi, and we do that all in one day because of the requirements for line of sight, because of the battery life of the UAVs. The technology is just not quite there yet, at least the technology that's available to the public, right? Military might have that, who knows? Right. But so the technology is not there. The way it's regulated is not there. We're starting to see some really cool things, like how close we could get with these UAVs. They're starting to use UAVs, and they've probably been doing it for, 5-10 years now in the waterfowl world, at least, for different projects, using thermal cameras for nesting studies and all these different things. I know Kevin Riggleman's doing some stuff down south. Delta Waterfowl's doing some stuff on the prairies. There's a lot of different ways that we can use these, but the technology for the scale of survey that we do and that most states do, the technology is just not quite there yet.
Yeah, you're going to burn a shitload of batteries doing a couple hundred miles of this river and 200 miles of the other, and like you said, just the line of sight thing, it'd be impossible. Like, you'd constantly be chasing it.
Yeah. And at that point, are you really saving any money?
Right.
Like when the technology gets there, it'll be great because it won't put me or my pilot, in harm's way. And it looks really cool, from the outside looking in, it looks really cool, but it's a hard day. Like it's pretty taxing. You're just mentally spent by the end of the day. And we get into some pretty hairy situations at times where, like, you wonder how you're going to get out of them.
We got a crop duster for a pilot. Of course it's going to be scary.
Yeah. And Mike, I can't brag on him enough, really. So Mike started with the airlines. He went, I think, down Pensacola or somewhere and went to flight school and all that. Started with the airlines and then started flying for a local crop duster here, and then eventually bought the business and started. He's been flying with us something like 17 years. So Mike's in his 40s, early 40s. He knows every nut and bolt on the airplane. He's kind of he's kind of a nerd, but he's a nerd about all this, and he can fix anything. I mean, Mike's he's really good at what he does, and we're pretty lucky to have him. He's got us out of some pretty sketchy situations, especially with snow geese. Snow geese kind of get a little wonky in the air
so
at times.
Bird strike is your main concern up there? Like whenever you fly over, they bust up, and now all of a sudden you got 50,000 birds trying to get out of the way?
Yes. So it's not, it's more so when we get into I guess get in an area where there's a bunch of birds moving around from a lot of different directions. And so you'll have, 10, 20,000 at 50 feet, and they're not all at the same altitude, right? So you're trying to climb to get out of them, and they're just birds everywhere. So, and bird strike on an aircraft of our size is not a good thing. It's pretty bad. But we've been lucky. I haven't had one. I don't think Aaron Yetter, the guy that was before me, ever had one. And previous to that, I honestly couldn't tell you.
That'd be a nervous wreck up there.
One of my questions about the actual duck numbers is, and I don't understand why it's this way, and I know there's reasonings. The blue-winged teal. Most blue-winged teal that are harvested in the United States, I'm going to guess 80% of them are killed during early teal season. After that, I don't know, because most of them are gone by then. But I don't know why early teal season doesn't open up around the second weekend in September like it does here. But I think it should go to like the second weekend in October, because I don't think we're really doing that much damage to the birds by hunting them for 6 weeks, because most of them are going to die of old age or in South America. How accurate is that? Is that way off, or is it pretty close?
Yeah, I don't know what that your 80%. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. So I guess your question is, should we extend the teal season out because we're just not shooting them, right? Like we're not putting a dent in the population, but that's kind of what we want. We don't want. And I can tell you that I've shot blue wings here in central Illinois in December.
Oh wow!
I mean, our duck season opens the end of October, at least the central zone where I'm at. The north zone opens a week prior to that. And for the first week or two of our season here, at least for the past, I'd say 5 years, most of my harvest is blue wings.
So we don't kill any once after teal season. I mean, I can't even think if we've ever killed one in November. All of our teal season are killed early teal season. Even we have a duck season that opens the last weekend in October. We get a first weekend, and we have not. I can't remember killing blue-winged teal then either.
Sometimes.
Oh,
but most of the time, if we shoot a teal in winter, it's a green wing.
A green wing. We don't ever. We killed a cinnamon or a couple cinnamons last year, but that's very rare. Now a wet year like this, we will kill some cinnamon teal. We will kill some this year in December and January, but it's very rare. But we don't ever kill blue wings. It's kind of like dove hunting. I think dove season should open September 1st and close the end of January. You're not going to make any numbers. You're not going to affect the dove population at all. First of all, there's not that many people hunting them. Second of all, most of them die within 2 years anyways. And that's why I asked about the teal. I know that the mallard is about 15% mortality rate, regardless if you shoot 10% or you shoot 3%. So I would think blue-winged teal would be the same, and we're not harvesting that many.
Yeah, so for your flyway, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what the migration chronology is through the central flyway. I know, clearly they move through quickly, or we wouldn't have an early teal season, right?
Right.
But I won't get into answering regulation stuff, especially in a flyway that's not the Mississippi Flyway.
Well, in the Mississippi, y'all have an early wood duck season, right?
So Tennessee and Kentucky have early wood duck seasons.
Right.
Yeah. But no other states do.
We could have a wood duck season here year round. It wouldn't make a difference at all because we don't have any wood ducks. I mean, none.
I've only shot it one here since I've been guiding. One wood
No
duck.
kidding.
Yep.
We just don't have them here. We don't have no trees hardly.
One time it was the opening weekend of big duck season in October, and it gave us a little flyby. And sure enough, like it got away. I told the guys I was with, I was like, that was my moment right there. You guys screwed it up. That was the one and only wood duck I've ever shot at, and it came in and got away.
We talked goose hunting with a guy yesterday that hunts in southern Illinois, which used to be the prime area to shoot big geese in the United States for years, and now there's not a lot of geese there. They used to blame that on the power plant lakes around Chicago. Then it's been the hot cropping. Why don't the what is your analysis of why the Canada goose does not migrate to that area like it used to? Is it food, water, pressure? What is it?
So it's clearly the heated ponds, right? I mean, it's all these heated ponds that people have.
We hear that all the time. I say it's lack of snow.
It's probably a combination of factors, right? So we just don't get these hard winters anymore that really force the migrators down. Snow cover and hard winters that push these birds further south. And, you know, depending on who you ask, the answer on which is the more driving factor, but I think it's more climate driven than anything. You know, I mean, if birds can, if these geese can hang out in cornfields that were harvested in October, you know, or September, October up north, even further north than us, in December, January, when it was normally covered in snow, then why would they leave, right? And I think that's part of it. The genetics is another part of it. You know, we did a pretty good job of recovering the giant Canada geese or giant Canada goose, and they're probably a little bit more hardy than some of the more some of the other subpopulations of geese. So it's a lot like most of the questions in the waterfowl world. It's multifaceted, but I think climate and snow cover and ice cover play a big factor in those.
I think the reason people like to blame those hot ponds is just because that's something that is in the wheelhouse that they could possibly change. You know what I mean? Like if you pin it on lack of winter, lack of snow, lack of ice, well, that's out of our control. But if it's like, hey, no, it's these hot ponds and we can fix this, and then the geese will come back. Right. So I think that's why that's kind of that low hanging fruit that people like to grab, is because in their mind, that's something that they could change through regulation rather than fuck. It just sucks. I mean, we're in we don't get snow like we used to.
I think
that's an optimistic. So the pessimistic side of that is they're looking for somebody to blame too, right? Which is probably a part of it. You know, I like to think that they're just looking for something that they can change. But I think a big part of it is they're also looking for somebody to blame, unfortunately. And so that's a piece of the puzzle too.
I think there's no doubt in my mind. I have no doubt in my mind that the hot water, whatever you want, flooded corn, does affect some migration for a couple of days.
To a degree.
To a small degree, that's right. Now, you can take all the flooded corn you want, and if you make it 15 degrees and you get 18 inches of snow, those birds are going to leave.
Right.
But we don't cover the food up, and we don't have any cold weather. But I do think that does play a factor, but a very small portion of it. You can't, if it's a cold winter and you get 10 days of sub-freezing temperatures in Nebraska and a foot of snow, those birds are going to leave those areas regardless. It's just going to happen. But we haven't had any of that, you know, to make that, for that to happen. But I do believe that it does make it is a factor in migration, but a very small degree of it.
Right. To what percentage can you put the blame on it is what the question is. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, a lot of the complaints of hot ponds and reservoirs and stuff north is mallard driven. Right. You know, we just don't kill the mallards in South Louisiana, you know, even southern Arkansas like we used to. And there's recent studies using stable isotopes of these birds and band recovery data and survey data and all this other stuff that's showing that, so those, and I think Fish and Wildlife Service just put out a report maybe a couple weeks ago, that I can't remember the guy's name. He was a postdoc at Mizzou. Brom, I can't remember his last name. He was a postdoc for Dr. Lisa Webb. But what they were showing was that, the southern distribution is shifting a little bit north, but it's not a lot. So you've got these core areas where the birds used to go using band return data, and that core area is still there. It's just shifting 100 kilometers to the north, or so it's the southern reach of that core area is still where it should be, but the peak is moved, or the kind of centroid of that circle is just moved a little bit north. And it's not like central Illinois is holding all the birds that used to sit in the timber in, Arkansas, the Arkansas Delta, right? These birds are arriving a little bit later and just a little bit further north. And like that, people have kind of, I don't know the right word to use here for the goose, but we know that happened. Like, Southern Illinois was the goose mecca for years and years and years. It's not. Right. That dried up in the 90s. It's not that anymore. But the same thing isn't necessarily happening. I won't say it's not happening with ducks. It's just certainly not happening that quickly. They're just kind of gradually shifting north. So there's a little bit different things going on with mallards and other ducks, and there are that goose problem. I think that's the jump people try to make a lot of times is, are we going to see the same thing in South Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Tennessee? And I've got skin in this game because that's where I'm from, and I still go down there to hunt. Are we going to see that same thing happening with mallards that we saw with geese? And right now, in my opinion, it doesn't look like that's an immediate concern, at least.
Right. Now, I can't remember who we were talking to, but the mallard population has taken a nosedive, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of trickling. It's on a pretty bad trend right now.
Yeah. So a nosedive's kind of harsh word. It's definitely not doing as good as it was a few years ago. But for the most part, I think that's a breeding ground thing. We don't think harvest drives populations like we once thought it did. Certainly, we're not killing these birds to extinction because we're well regulated through adaptive harvest management. But the prairies have been dry. We're kind of in this dry cycle. It's a little bit better this year, but the I guess moisture, the ponds that we got this year was even a little late on a lot of the prairies. So the birds were showing up to dry prairies, and now the brood rearing habitat up there is phenomenal. But those early pond numbers were not that great. So we might not see a big jump this year anyway. And another piece of that is we need those dry cycles. Yeah. Like we can't have the prairies be wet every single year. It's just not good for the system, and ultimately it's not good for duck numbers. And so we need these dry cycles, but we don't need them to be extended. Like we don't need super long dry cycles. And the bird, it's not like we get one wet cycle and bird populations are going to immediately rebound. It's going to take, I forget the exact species numbers, but it's going to take a few years in a row of these wet cycles to build up the population, and really get it cranking again like it was in the heyday.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the same as like compound interest. You know what I mean? Like it's just going to take, you got to have that good base layer, and then you got to extend that for 3 or 4 years, and then you'll start to see these compounding results. It's not going to be overnight.
Right.
I mean, you just don't have, the breeding population and all that other stuff. It takes a while. It takes a couple of good years for that shit to catch up to itself.
Yeah.
The problem is that, you've got a lot of young people that, this is their first 5 or 6 years of hunting, and now they're starting to see it start to kind of go down. Well, they're new to the game, and they haven't been here. They haven't been hunting long enough to see other times in history where populations did the same thing.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's where state agencies, federal agencies, and like even, like I'm not either of those things, but folks in the waterfowl world can do a better job of outreach and education. And hey, the populations aren't doing well, but here's the last 30 years of that data. There's ebbs and flows to this thing. It's, stick with it. It's going to get better. It's sooner or later, it might even get worse, further down the road. But this is a normal thing that happens, when you're dealing with a wild population. And I think if you can do a good job of catching those hunters early before they get jaded by, well, this is the worst thing ever, and I think if you can kind of get them aware of what's really happening in the system, then they're going to stick around because they want to see it get better. They want to see the efforts on the ground have meaningful results to their bag, and I think if you can make X equals Y equals Z and show it to them, I think you can keep them around.
Yeah. Just people, that's the one thing social media has done, is it's created an unreal expectation for a lot of people a lot of the times, because you're only going to post your good hunts and people see that and they're like, well, they're doing it. Why am I not doing it? Well, that might've been the one time in the year where they had those results. Like, just stick with it. Your day will come.
Yeah.
It creates an unrealistic expectation of what you should hope for on any given morning.
It does. And I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm old enough. Like, I'm so glad social media was not around when I was in my teens, and I guess it was in my 20s, but I was doing other things. But and I 100% agree with that. But if we're gonna talk about the bad side of social media, and there definitely is a downside of social media. Trust me, I post these numbers on a weekly basis, and I see the comments. There's a good side too, like we recruit hunters that wouldn't normally come to the sport because of social media. We provide educational opportunities for people to learn how to hunt, to learn how to do things because of social media. And I don't love it. Social media is not my favorite thing in the world, but I think it does provide some positives, but that's another education thing. You have to learn how to take the good and forget the bad, I guess.
Right. I bet you see some doozies of a comment whenever you post the numbers.
I don't read the comments anymore.
You just post and ghost?
I feel awful about it. Yeah, post and go. So, Dr. Heath Hagee, who's with the Fish and Wildlife Service now, he was the director here at the Forbes station when I started. And he asked, because we kind of had this email distribution list that Aaron would send out the weekly numbers to. And the Illinois DNR supports the survey. I think I probably should have said that from the get-go, honestly. But Illinois DNR financially supports the survey because it's important to them, it's important to their constituents, and it's important to the waterfowl population or waterfowl management population as a whole. But Aaron was like, what if we put this out weekly on social media? I mean, you have the numbers ready. Is that something that you could do? And Aaron agreed, and it kind of took off. We don't put a whole lot of effort into it. Aaron kind of started this weekly blog post where he puts kind of things that he sees, or if we've got a specific research project that we kind of want to highlight because we're seeing some cool stuff out of, we'll put that in there. But outside of that, we try not to spend a whole lot of time on it because we don't get paid for it, quite honestly. But it really did take off, and I think it's important. I think those numbers, those transparent numbers, should be available to hunters on some level. Guys use it to, I won't say what percent, but there are people that use them to decide whether or not that they're going to hunt that weekend, or where they're going to hunt that weekend. And so it's this really cool data set. But man, some of the I tried to keep up with the comments the first couple of years because there's people that do ask legitimate questions. But it just, you go through the comments, and you wake up in this chipper mood because the surveys for the week is over. I'm probably going to get to hunt that day. And then I look at the comments and I'm just like, why do we even do it? Why? But it's the squeaky wheel deal. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, so you just have to ignore them and move on. I just was finding it harder and harder to ignore some of the comments, so I just stopped reading them. So if any of your listeners are commenting and asking me questions, I'm sorry. Send your question directly to the DM the Facebook page, and I usually respond to those. But you can't get into comments.
Did they think that y'all were high in your numbers? Was that where the main problem was? There's no way that they're seeing this many birds.
That sometimes it's low, sometimes it's making stuff up, sometimes it's waterfowl social media. So they think that's their area to complain about everything, and some of them have valid complaints. I'm not dismissing that at all, but none of those complaints are going to be solved on the comment section of a weekly blog post, right? They're just not. But they're going to make them.
Yeah, I'm the same with you. Like, I post and ghost, baby. You know what I mean? Because it's just like you could have 10 positive comments, and then that one, that's the one that sticks with you.
Yeah.
And so I was just like you. I was like, this is not healthy. Just let it ride.
Yeah. Humans aren't designed to. We're not equipped to handle that. Visceral is not the right word. Just that constant barrage of negative reaction, and that's what it is. It's an avenue for people to get out what they wouldn't normally say to someone's face at times.
Yeah. Now, you were also in the Navy, I read.
I was.
And you were what? Yep. You studied. You were what? What was your title with the Navy?
So I was an electrician's mate, nuclear trained electrician's mate. So I was classically trained to operate electric and steam plant systems that were driven by a nuclear reactor. So I went to nuclear power school and electrician school in Charleston, South Carolina, or Goose Creek, South Carolina, for 2 years, and then I got stationed on the USS Louisiana out of Kings Bay, Georgia, for 2 years, and then we changed home ports over to Bremerton, Washington, for 2 years. So quite the career change, from those days. But it was I enjoyed the people. I met a lot of great people, a lot of people that I still stay in touch with today, but it wasn't for me. And so moved home, had some pretty hard sit down discussions with my fiance at the time. She's now my wife, and decided what we were going to do, and turned into this.
So my question is, and we're going to get off into the weeds a little bit on here, but why don't we see more nuclear power just on the grid as a whole? Because it's relatively safe now, isn't it?
Fear.
But that's the main thing, right? It's just, we saw what happened at Chernobyl and
Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island. There's a handful of them, and the Fukushima disaster didn't help things, right? Luckily I've forgotten more about nuclear power than I really remember at this point. But so we operated with a pressurized water reactor. We used water as a moderator, and it's an incredibly safe system because of that, and also because there's a negative coefficient of reactivity. So as a negative temperature coefficient of reactivity. So as the temperature of the water goes hotter, the reactivity goes down. So there's no the reactors that we operated, there was no fear of the water getting hotter and hotter and causing this overcritical reaction. And I could get into the weeds, but I won't. So that's a very, 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 very broad way of saying that the nuclear power is incredibly safe. The Navy's been operating nuclear power plants on boats for probably, 70 years now, and no real accidents. So there's a way to do it. There really is. And I'm a I to try to avoid the politics of it as much as possible. I'm a big supporter of nuclear power. This is coming from a guy that my dad made his living working in coal plants and natural gas plants and hydro plants. That's my dad worked for Tennessee Valley Authority in the Southeast. And he was a big believer in nuclear power.
Well, it's cheap too, isn't it?
It's cheap. Yeah. People are scared to death of it, which is fair. It's a little bit overblown because we were led to believe it was a little more dangerous. And it is super dangerous if not done correctly. But you can say that about a lot of things.
Sure.
It just has drastic, dire consequences
if it goes bad.
If it goes bad, yeah, so I'm a big believer in nuclear power.
What happened at 3 Mile Island? When that happened, the 70s or 80s?
They had a leak, they thought. Didn't the core warm up?
Gosh, you're dragging me down the hole here. I honestly, so we had to read those case studies. I honestly don't remember which one was which. So 3 Mile Island, I think that was the one in New York.
Pennsylvania,
is that right?
I think.
Pennsylvania. So that was the one where they overrode a bunch of safety interlocks, which is usually what happens with these accidents. Right. Honestly, I don't want to go down that hole because I honestly don't remember.
I think the core got hot is what happened. I don't think nothing ever. I think it was blown up more. Hold on, I pulled it up right now just to look.
Did they do a documentary on Netflix? I might have to go. They
had a relief valve got stuck open, and it made large amounts of water to escape from the isolated coolant area. But I don't think nothing ever happened. It was close to being a disaster. But the Chernobyl one was a leak that they had to seal.
That's right. Yeah.
And they sent guys in to do that.
Yeah, they're all.
Yeah, well,
done.
they had to.
Yeah.
They didn't have a choice. Chernobyl was the poster child of how bad those things can really go, right? But there was a lot of things that they could have done differently that they just didn't.
They did it cheap.
I don't want to make people believe that I know more about that stuff than I do because I don't remember it. We used to read. We had to read those case studies when I was coming through nuke school, and I got kind of in the weeds with them, so I could have talked about them then, but I don't remember the ins and outs. It's super interesting stuff.
Talk about a definition. I mean, knowing that at Chernobyl.
Well, they didn't. It was Russian soldiers. They didn't tell them they were going to die from it.
Oh,
that's what they did in
I figured
Chernobyl.
They had to know.
No, they didn't. They were just pawns. They were soldiers. They told them you got to go do this, and they did it. I think now they've got they built some kind of engineer came up with something where they totally encased that whole system. I think. Where it's got a concrete barrier that's holding it all under, but it's still cooking every day. But I was 11 years old when 3 Mile Island happened, and that was on the news constantly. So you were in this total fear that there was going to be this atomic bomb blow up and Pennsylvania is going to wipe out the whole East Coast. Because that's kind of the way they feel. Like you said, that was the propaganda with it. But we need nuclear energy. It's clean, it's efficient, and it's like you said, everything else. It's good enough to put on our nuclear powered aircraft carriers. We just need the same.
And have 18-year-old kids operate it.
So we should have
someone with a GED.
But the problem is,
that's right.
They don't have enough lobbyists on the nuclear energy side to get it done. But
I don't know anything.
Well,
about
that's it's money. It's all about money. Is why it's not here no more. But it is a best. That natural gas, the two most efficient ways for energy, and they're clean, both of them. One of them, you just got to really watch how you do it, and it's a shame we don't have more nuclear energy than we do. It's the way of the future, that and hydrogen, probably.
Yeah.
It won't get any argument out of me.
So how did you make the switch? I mean, did you grow up waterfowl hunting? Like, where did this career switch happen?
So I grew up hunting, so I'm from northeast Mississippi, pretty much as far northeast as you can go in the state. And it's funny. I think about like times when I remembered seeing ducks or stuff when I was young. And we would jump shoot wood ducks off of the creek or whatever, but I never had any family or friends that was into it. And so I just didn't, which, looking back, but before they changed the landscape there for the Tennessee Tombigbee Waterway, that connection, they drained a whole bunch of the wetlands. The waterfowl population in that part of the state was quite good, but that was long before I came along. But so I grew up deer hunting, like squirrel hunting, rabbit hunting, that kind of deal. Joined the Navy. I came home on leave, and one of my best friends growing up, he said, "Hey, we're going duck hunting the next time you come home." And this was, I think I was in Washington at the time. I didn't have anything at home. Certainly didn't have any waders or anything. So I don't care that much about that. And he said, "No, let's go. It'll be a good time." And I went with him, and man, there's 3 of us, and I think we shot like 6 ducks, probably all gadwall. And man, it's just a blast, like I just got super into it. Moved home. I didn't get to hunt a lot in the Navy, which is kind of a bummer because I was in some really cool places. Like I was Southeast Georgia and Charleston, South Carolina, and up in the Northwest in Washington. And it's like, like I didn't get to go hunt. I didn't get to fish. God, that was a pretty big part of my life growing up. If I can't do that, I'm not going to be a good person to be around. Like I'm just going to be miserable. And so we kind of decided with my wife, like I had interviewed for operator positions at nuke plants, at these companies. Tennessee Valley Authority was one of them. Actually got accepted into their like SGO operator class or whatever that they do every so often. And I was talking with her, and I was like, I just don't want to do that anymore. I need to do something where I can be outside. And I was like, let's do this wildlife thing, and that's what it turned into. I had no idea that the job that I'm in right now, I had no idea that this even existed. Like I was going to go manage a WMA or like plant food plots, like control invasives, like manage populations of local wildlife. And then I got a shadow. They called it a shadow program my first year in college, and I got to hang out with this biologist and just follow him around our area and do all the cool stuff that he did. Like, and he didn't make me do any of the monotonous stuff. Like I wasn't entering data on a daily basis. Like it was, hey, we're going to blow up beaver dams, or we're going to do whitetail deer herd health checks, sharpshooting deer and stuff, and you can help us, process these deer. And every time, it didn't matter what we were doing, on the way back to the station, Jerry would say, man, he would chuckle and he would say, "Do you believe they pay me to do this? Like I get paid to do this. So if I can have a job where I can say that more days than I don't, then it's a pretty good deal." And there, like that's kind of how I ended up where I'm at. I got into research, just trying to get experience, because it's pretty competitive, for as bad as the pay is in wildlife, the jobs are all pretty competitive because they're all fun jobs. It's a passion career. And in order to do that, when you're in college, you have to take these summer positions and technician positions and stuff to get experience to make yourself competitive. So I got into the research by doing that. I worked for Delta Waterfowl for a couple of summers up in Manitoba and North Dakota, and ultimately went to Tennessee for my master's project, my master's degree, and then ended up here. So not the straightest path.
No, not at all. I mean, you go from this nuclear guy to be like, hey, I want to get a career in wildlife. I bet your fiance was like, what are you talking about?
Oh, my dad was pissed. Like because he'd spent his entire career with TVA. He's like, it's a great job, phenomenal job,
benefits, I'm sure, and like the whole nine.
Yeah, but how's a guy going to tell his 24-year-old son who just got out of the Navy, no, you're not going to do that, And he's like, you sure about that? You're going back to school, okay? You're going back to school to you what? That's a thing, But he came around, he's I think it always kind of bummed him out that I was never going to be close to home. You know, you don't have that option in most of these jobs. But he came around.
Now, where all did you apply to before you got this job? Was this your first job out of getting your master's?
Yeah, so I hadn't really applied anywhere, honestly. So this position came open, and one of my advisors was the director here, and we were talking I was at a conference in Ohio, I think, and we were talking about it. He said, my predecessor, Randy Smith, he's leaving soon to go to DNR, and we're looking at replacing him. Would you be interested? Do you know anybody interested? And I was like, well, yeah, that'd be great. Is that something I can do before I finish? Because there's no possible way I'm going to finish my master's before that. And he said, oh yeah, we can. That happens in these jobs all the time. And so they posted the position, and I applied, and was lucky enough to get it.
Yeah, I gotta take a picture real quick. Sorry. Let me out.
You must have had to go really bad.
That or he's bored of my rambling on.
No. It's been very interesting, and you're teaching us a lot of things. I'm going to go back to the duck questions because Andy's more of the technology guy, and I'm the duck guy question.
Okay.
And I had to leave the room a minute ago, and I heard y'all talk about the mallard a minute ago. And I think that we've definitely seen a decrease in mallards population. We have in the Central Flyway, and I know you said you're not a Central Flyway guy, but my question is, do you think if we went to a smaller limit of like 3 ducks per day for a couple of years, do you think that long-term effects would be really quick and gaining or a slow process?
No, I don't think that. No, short answer, and that's just my opinion, that limiting harvest on a population that's not in dire straits is not going to make a huge impact. And I think more so well, I don't want to go down that road. I think the best way to increase the population of any of those species of birds is put habitat on the ground where they're breeding. And I think we're kind of we've known that for a long time, and we're kind of seeing it now in this dry cycle that we're in. And that's kind of what Andy and I were talking about earlier is, it's going to take, we're kind of hopefully coming out of this dry cycle. It's a little wetter up there this year. They're getting pounded with water in the Dakotas right now.
Horrible flooding in Brookings, South Dakota, through the middle of town. I mean, places between homes, just big rivers going. So the Dakotas are going to hold a lot of birds, but ducks have already nested by now, haven't they?
That's right. So this only, it's good. It's good to have all this wetland habitat up there, but it's only impacting brood rearing. It's not necessarily impacting nesting, because it was still pretty dry up there when most of the birds were initiating nest and that kind of thing. But that's part of the puzzle too, right? So, brood success is not very high. Nest success is not very high. If you can make one of those things go up, you're gonna see, you're gonna see results. But it is gonna take a couple of 3 multiple years of a wet cycle up there for us to see a meaningful change and trends of the populations of mallards.
Like we were in Saskatoon in October, and it was very dry, especially west of town. Between Saskatoon and Calgary was really dry. Had they caught any rain this spring, or has it mostly been in the States?
I honestly don't know in that part of the prairies.
I pull up the drought map.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll look at it real quick.
And that specific part, I don't know.
I
saw Mankato, the bridge or whatever is about to.
That was their dam at Mankato's going out. One of the bridges, a train bridge is about under. But then I saw a video of Mingo from Brookings, South Dakota, and there was washouts of roads and through neighborhoods. It was terrible. I mean, I don't know how much rain they had, but they must have had a ton of rain over the weekend. I will talk Mississippi Flyway with you. What are your thoughts on Arkansas going to 2 specs from 3 specs?
I don't. I guess I don't have an opinion on that, honestly. Um,
What is the reason why? The numbers down?
you would have to talk to who's the new waterfowl biologist
I have
there.
no clue.
Gosh, I forget his name. So Nuke Naylor just stepped up into the chief of wildlife position a year or 2 years ago, and they hired Brett Leach is his name, I believe. He's a new waterfowl biologist for Arkansas. I think he started last July or something like that. I mean, if they drop the number, clearly they see justification for it. So they're not. The great thing about most of these states is they want to provide opportunity for their hunters. I'll speak and I'll paint with a broad brush here and say most of the waterfowl managers that I know for these states, it's not like they're looking for an arbitrary reason to limit bag numbers for these species of birds. They want to provide maximum opportunity for their hunters. So if they, and I saw that number drop too, but I haven't been to the latest Mississippi Flyway committee meetings. There's one coming up actually in August, and Illinois is hosting it this year. So hopefully I'll get to be at that one. But I don't know the specific justification for Arkansas dropping their limit. I wish I
if it's
did.
a new guy, well, he's catching some hell. You know that.
Oh, right.
Oh, God. So that's, I do not envy him because they're, all the GTR stuff there, which is needed, but it's, opportunity. You're removing a lot of hunting opportunity from people. And it's for the betterment of the resource, but it's still taking places away for people to go and, hug a tree and shoot a duck.
Right.
And
as
somebody who likes to stand under a tree and shoot ducks, I get it.
Yeah.
You gonna live over there?
I think so. Texas, we got a big boost to our speckled belly numbers. We've been stuck at 2 for the last
4 years,
longer than that. 2 specks, and now it's 5.
Yeah, we went from 2 to 5.
2 to 5. That is a big jump.
Which is asinine to me.
Big jump. So we are going to self-impose a 3 speckled belly limit here at Stanfield Hunting Outfitters, just so that we can make sure the hunting in January is as good as it is in November. And it's just something that we're going to do. The other outfitter in our area is going to do the same thing. But there's a lot of times if we don't get a cold front, January, you're hunting the same birds that you hunted in November and December. And, you go from shooting 2 birds a day per person to 5. You can make January pretty tough pretty quickly.
Yeah. That was the real problem for us in central Illinois is we seem to be hunting the same birds throughout most of the season this past season. Obviously we were getting small pushes of birds, but it just felt like all these birds were using the same areas over and over. And we never really got even localized weather to push the birds around and kind of make them do the things that they normally do during the winter. And so the birds got here and just set.
Right.
And that's tough hunting no matter where you are. It was especially tough here.
Are y'all seeing more specs up there?
Yeah. So I don't know about, the last couple of years, comparing one year to the next, it probably hasn't changed that much, but we used to not count specs at all. Like maybe 10 years ago on the aerial survey, we just didn't see them, and now we see them in pretty solid numbers. So the thing about specs and snow geese, especially I guess not so much in the fall because they kind of push through here pretty quick, but in the late winter, early spring, it's tough to gauge how good our numbers are in the spring on the spring count, because they're more often than not, by the time we get to a refuge, they're in a field somewhere feeding. And so we're probably not seeing, or I won't say probably, we are not seeing a huge number of the birds that are here. But yeah, I forget exactly what year, but they kind of slowly started matriculating into the survey. And in fact, I remember Aaron saying uh, Michelle Horace, who flew the survey before Aaron, she was on staff here until 2015. Um, he was asking her like, "What is this? Like, is this a spec? Is this what I think it is?" And she was like, "I never saw those in the plane. I don't know, And that's what it turned out to be. Was we started slowly seeing speckled-bellied geese on the survey.
Their population just has to be exploding. I mean, for them to be expanding, because I mean they're expanding everywhere now. Like you said, like up into Illinois, and we get people from Iowa that talk about, hey, I'm going to buy 5 dozen speckled-belly decoys just so that I can hunt them when they're here. And I mean, their range is expanding more and more.
Yeah, is that a population thing, or a distribution change in the species? I think it's probably a distribution change in the species. But it's cool. Like it's cool to see. And unfortunately for you guys, the snow goose is kind of doing the same thing, right? So the snow geese tends to be moving away from portions of Texas where it was critically important for hunters there. Kind of like the Canada goose in southern Illinois. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of the same deal. These larger bodied geese are changing their distribution patterns a little bit based on what's happening on the land around them.
It changes so much. I've been in business over 30 years. When we first got in the hunting business in West Texas, we killed some specks, but we killed small geese, the little cacklers, and we killed big geese. We killed a lot of the big graders. And after about 5 years, the big geese quit migrating down. We didn't kill graders hardly anymore, and it was mostly all small geese. Then we started shooting specks and small geese, and now we shoot specks. We don't shoot any big geese. We kill some small Canadas still, and we kill some white geese. My friends, when I first got in the hunting business on the coast, that's where everybody went to go shoot snow geese. They don't even shoot snow geese on the coast hardly anymore like they used to. Southern Louisiana, the same way. They used to shoot a ton of specks and a ton of snows. They quit planting grains and started planting more sugar cane. They don't have as many birds as they used to anymore. It's a cycle that happens all the time. The places the small little lessers are at right now, in 15 years, they won't be there. They'll be somewhere else because history has showed us that they bounce around. They move around all the time. We used to have a ton here. Then they started having them in Lubbock. Now there's more in Amarillo than there are in Lubbock. Central Oklahoma's got a ton of them now. They used to not have a ton of them. They used to be down here. Now Wichita, Kansas has them. Great Bend, Kansas used to have them. So it's if you're relying to make a living on them small birds, they are going to move. The big geese have completely changed because they're localized now just about everywhere. I'll bet where you're at right now. I bet 30 years ago you didn't have geese in your city parks, but I bet you do now.
So 30 years ago, I mean, yeah, we definitely do now. I mean, that's where a lot of the local banding happens, is some of these, I guess not so much city parks.
But localized, golf clubs, stuff like that.
But yeah, so, I mean, there's definitely more. And we had a Canada goose study up in the greater Chicago area a few years ago, looking at movements of those and relation to the airports and stuff like that. So it's a problem. It's a real problem. But I think there's a lot of merit to what you said there. It cycles. These birds are going to move where they're successful.
Right.
Especially the goose species. Like they've shown us that they can kind of be less rigid in their migration patterns based on what's available to them and what makes them successful. And I think we can learn a lot from that.
The big Canada goose has got to be the most adaptive bird in our country.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, for God's sakes, we got them nesting on rooftops here.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. They take advantage of every situation they have, but I mean, they used to be a migrating bird, and I don't know what the study is on it, but I would like to know in the 18 and early 1900s if the big Canada goose stayed in the summertime in the southern part of the United States, or if it was all food related, they moved back and forth. Because now you can go to southern Louisiana in Baton Rouge, and they've got local Canada geese that never leave that area. They just stay there.
Yeah, there's a lot at play there. It's not necessarily just food. It's, if you reach back into history that far, it looked way different.
Yes, no doubt.
Everything was way different. So there's a couple of competing characteristics there. But I agree with the statement that the Giants kind of do whatever the hell they want to do, and they're pretty good at it. Do you guys? I'm sorry if you said this before. Do you guys kill a lot of giants?
No, we used to back in the mid '90s.
We shot a lot of them.
And you guys are like an hour or two north of Dallas Fort Worth, is that right?
West of Fort Worth. So we're right in the middle of Lubbock and Dallas, kind of right there in the center. But yeah, like I could remember when I first started hunting, you always had an opportunity of decoying a group of big geese. I mean, you weren't going to shoot like an entire limit of them, but there was always that possibility that you'd shoot 5 to 10 big geese. And then it just kind of died off.
And it was two different pockets, because where Knox City sets at, we hunt wheat country and we hunt peanuts. When you hunted the wheat country north and like where the lodge is, we used to have we used to have graders here at the lodge, big birds, and you'd shoot them along the river here. We don't have them anymore. They don't migrate down here at all. And I'm telling you, we had a big population of graders. I would say I would bet 1992 or 1993, I'll bet we had anywhere from 20 to 40,000 big birds in our area that stayed in the wheat country. You'd go to the peanut country south of Knox City, where we shooting just peanuts in the playa lakes, and we're wintering 500,000 to 1 million small geese there. We didn't have any. You very seldom shot big geese in the peanuts. It was always in the wheat country up north. Two completely different groups of birds. But we don't have the big birds. Eventually started going to Oklahoma City and staying in town, and all of the little towns in Oklahoma and Wichita Falls and stuff. Wichita Falls probably has 5,000 graders now that just live in their city limits. Well, I'm 56 years old and I grew up in Wichita Falls. We didn't have a big Canada goose there ever growing up. You go to the golf courses now, they're everywhere. I played golf all in high school. I never saw a goose on the golf course ever. And now they're everywhere. And they've adapted to that, but they've quit migrating in big numbers like they used to, or at least in our area. I'm not saying they don't in other areas, but they don't come this far south no more. And there's no reason to. They got golf courses with food and water in every city in America, and there's no sense to even leave the city limits.
Yeah, the birds that are produced there, right? I mean, the birds that are produced naturally, or naturally is not the right word there, but the birds that are produced in wild places, those birds are still going to migrate. But they just don't have to migrate as far anymore. There's no reason for them to. They're not going to go any further than they have to. Because the weather and the conditions just, don't really make it necessary.
I had a guy reach out to me about a month ago. We were talking about the big geese. We were talking about these geese, and we were talking about the wildfires in the Texas Panhandle where it all burned up. Well, now it's all green and lush up there, all the rain and stuff. He said there are family groups of big Canadas all over the Texas Panhandle now. Now, how the hell they knew there was a fire and they knew it was all green and there's water now, I have no idea. But I've seen that happen here before. In August, we can have a big rain and we got some sheet water and there's teal. I'm like, who the hell told them that we had enough rain last night for sheet water? I mean, they show up overnight. So, but he said there's a lot of nesting Canadas now in the Texas Panhandle.
Huh.
When your life depends on it, you can find food.
Yes. Yes.
There was pretty cool studies in the 90s that looked at mallard usage on like freshly flooded sheetwater areas and how they changed and how they changed their movements in relation to areas as they were flooded and this new flood or new sheetwater became available, and it's pretty cool stuff. And you guys hunt, you see that if there's a freshly flooded place that has food on it, that's where they're going to be.
Now somebody they have a conference call somewhere.
They got a meeting going on somehow.
I saw 2 blue-winged teal drakes yesterday in full plumage, full color. It is almost July. When are they going to lose their color?
Soon.
That's what I would keep waiting for too, because they're fixing to turn their jaunt back to coming back.
Yeah, they're not. They're definitely not going to have it coming back. Man,
Yeah.
it's I guess soon. Yeah, they ought to be doing. But if they're in, maybe they don't know what to do. If they're in, Central Texas.
I was
They're confused anyway.
I was shocked. I mean, I saw two drakes had the white moon right in front of their eyes,
big
both of
crescent
them.
moon.
And I was like, wow, they're still in pretty color, and I didn't expect that. And I saw a shoveler the other day that's still beautiful. Which I don't know if a shoveler, do they lose a lot of their color also?
Sure, just like any other.
They
duck.
do. Yeah, they're ugly. Like, I mean, when we shoot them here, they're, even Mississippi. When I hunt down in Mississippi, until mid to late January, they're still pretty ugly.
Yeah,
but it's a shoveler.
Yeah. One study that I would be interested in seeing, and I don't know how you'd pull this off. I'm not the scientist here, but the commingling between big geese, and speckled bellies, because that was one thing that I noticed, and I don't know if it was just coincidence, but the same time that we were losing our little Canada geese, we were getting more and more and more speckled bellies into our area. So I don't know if that played a factor in driving out the Canada. Now, we also were going through a pretty serious drought at the same time.
Sure.
So I don't know if it was a combination of things. I don't know if the speckled bellies are just noisy little assholes, and the little Canada goose is like, to hell with this, we're leaving. And it could be said the same with the big Canada goose and the little Canada goose, So that would be a study that I would be interested in. I just don't know how you would pull it off.
Yeah, I don't either. I know. So we do see them in mixed flocks when we fly the survey, Canadas and speckled bellies. There is a study. So Southern Illinois is doing a study right now, but it's in the spring, and I want to say it's more so looking at that competitive exclusion, or how birds are using the same areas, but I think it's between snow geese and Canadas and speckled bellies, and I know it's just during the spring.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some people looking at that right now. I definitely don't know, how you would do it with like cacklers and giants and that sort of thing. Man, that would just be tough basically from an observer standpoint.
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line? I mean, with that staunch of a comparison with cacklers and giants, you could probably do it. But as you kind of mix, the others in there, it gets a little weird.
Yeah, because I can remember 2011, we had a really, really good year with lesser Canada geese. And then that was when the drought started to happen. We were in the midst of the drought, and then we started to see more and more speckled bellies. When I was a kid, we would shoot speckled bellies in November and then again in January. They would go down into South Texas and then to Mexico, and then we would shoot them on the reverse later in the year. But there was that month gap where we would not have any speckled bellies in our area. It was all lesser Canada geese. And I started noticing that we shot specks the whole year. And then the next year, we saw less Canada geese, more speckled bellies, and then now it's pretty much totally flip-flopped from high lesser Canada goose population, low speckled belly, and now it has just basically inverted itself. But there's a lot of factors at play too that happened around then. Was it all drought? Was it drought pressure? Was it so? It's tough.
Yeah, and as if one species is changing their distribution, and timing, then what's to say that the other species isn't doing the exact same thing, right? Like it's might not be a competition deal. I mean, it very well could be. Might not be a competition deal. It might just be bird distribution.
Right.
Like those birds are doing very different things, and they're doing them in different places.
Yeah. And I mean, you think about it that way. We were lucky to have the speckled belly goose replace the Canada goose, because if we didn't have that backfill of speckled belly geese, this area would just it'd be Southern Illinois. We'd be bitching about hot cropping in Nebraska. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we were fortunate that the speckled belly took the place of the Canada goose.
So is that who the people in your part of Texas blame? You guys blame Nebraska and Kansas?
We don't blame nobody here.
We're pretty open. We kind of can see that, it's lack of snow and all the other things.
And southeast of the Mississippi Flyway, it's Missouri and Illinois, and I mean it's even gotten up into the Dakotas, I think. But it's funny to see, like, people trying to put a face to a problem. But yeah, I guess I never really thought about that with, the Central Flyway is who's the face of the problem in the Central Flyway.
Those damn Nebraskans. That's who it is.
Those damn Nebraskans.
Those Huskers.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
When we have cold winter, we should our goose the hot cropping shit don't affect the geese. I don't think so. That's not going to bother us.
Right.
But the ducks it does, or the lack of maybe a little bit. But when we have winter, we got ducks anyways. I blame it on old man winter. When we have winter, we're going to have a lot of ducks. When we don't have winter, we're not going to shoot a lot of ducks. And that's the bottom line, the whole deal. I understand the Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa debate right there about they're holding our birds in Louisiana and all that other crap. It don't affect us that way. If we have winter, we're going to shoot a lot of ducks. January, we finally got cold up north. We shot a lot of ducks this last January. So when we have some winter, we kill a lot of ducks. I would love for us to have an old-fashioned winter. I've been hearing about this mini ice age my whole life, and I'm 56 years old, and my mini ice age, I think, was only 3 days. Right. I don't think they told us it was going to be 3 or 4 years. They said a mini ice age. Well, I've went through a bunch of weeks and 10 days of cold weather. I would love to see it get cold around October 15th and let up about February 2nd. One winter just to see what it'd be like again.
Yeah.
Move north.
Well, hell, up north they don't have no winter like they used to either.
Yeah,
it's cold, but
we definitely haven't had it here. I mean, we had a real good cold snap, but it was after our duck season here. It was, the first or second week in January, I think. And we had a 10-day stretch there where it was pretty brutal cold. And the first winter I moved here, it would have been 2013, I think. It was the largest or the most snow on record since 78 or 79 or something like that. That winter was pretty brutal, and I was pretty convinced that my wife was going to divorce me and move back south. Because we're talking about a girl that grew up in Mississippi, stayed in Mississippi, went to Ole Miss, and here I am dragging her to Tennessee first, and then up to Central Illinois. But she made it, But you're 100% right. We just don't quite get the winters like we used to, and that's the bigger issue here is, with, I guess, the extremes of weather seem to be the kind of more likely scenario each year. So it seems like we're going to have these, years of extreme cold, and then a couple of years of mild, and then maybe an extreme warm winter, however it happens. But we just kind of you have to make do with what you got when it comes to playing the weather.
I want that grumpy old man winter. You watch that first grumpy old men and snow's up to their ass, and that's what I want.
Yeah.
One of those.
I think you got to move to Minnesota for that.
I guess so. They probably, they said it was around Thanksgiving. They probably filmed the fucking movie in February.
Well, no,
or some shit like that.
Well, they probably did, but back then it was snow was covered. I remember my first 5 years in business, I would get calls from guys in Minnesota, in the Dakotas and stuff, and it would be Thanksgiving, and they'd be like, "Hey, we're froze up here, and all our birds are gone. You got anything available?" That was very common back then. I went to a hunting show in Minneapolis in '96. We used to do that hunting show there, and it's in March, and it's 10 days. And every third booth was someone selling snowmobile or ice fishing stuff up there because they used to have winters all the time. Those guys that are selling snow machines, they're struggling the last 10 years because it doesn't snow no more.
No, I'm sure.
I mean, I went to northern Minnesota 4 years ago. Me and Michelle went up there and went ice fishing for a little bit. We didn't get into any real snow till we got north of Duluth. And it used to be snow from Kansas City north all of January and February. And there's not an answer for it. I mean, there's nobody to call trust me, I've been in my vehicle many times scouting in the morning. I would love to call someone and complain about the weather.
Right.
And there's nobody to call,
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
Yep.
So, how, when you're taking these surveys and you fly over, do you take like a snapshot of that area and then count? Like, or are you just counting in a hurry?
No, we're counting on the spot. So it's yes. So when it's like peak migration, if there's a there's a flock, and sometimes I'll post pictures on social media of really cool like flocks of birds, congregated flocks of birds. It's peak migration. I'll try to take a picture about a flock that I'm unsure of. If I'm not, I'm pretty sure I've got this number in my head here, but I'll take a picture of those and try to go back and take a, I guess, longer look at it. But that's very rare, and more often than not, if I do that, I'm second guessing myself. So I try not to do it. But we do go back. So on larger flock sizes like that, I'll have Mike, hey Mike, I need to see that again. Or, there's 100 birds or 200, 300 birds in this corner. That's super not important when you got, 80,000 over here in this corner. Let's spend a little extra time looking at these birds rather than the 400 that's over on the east side.
Right.
That's not to say we're not going to go over there and get those, but we're going to spend more of our time trying to figure out the bulk of the birds there.
So you can just count that. You've got it down enough to where you're like, what 1,000 birds look like. And you fly over and you're like, okay, that's X amount of birds, 5,000 or whatever.
Right.
And you've pretty well got it.
Yeah. And it changes with time of year. It changes with species. So birds kind of situate themselves or distribute themselves a little differently. Pintails, it looks like, I make the joke, and I've said this before, but it looks like there's like a head pintail walking around with a ruler. They're that evenly spaced when you fly over top of them. I mean, it's speckle bellies are the same way. Like they're just super uniform, and so those are different than say green wings and mallards that might stack up in a corner. So it's a little bit more complex than just saying that's 5,000 birds over there. You have to get it down in there with them and start from square one each time and say, 100, 200, 400, 800, that's 1,000. That's what 1,000 looks like in this flock. Mm-hmm. And then kind of go from there. And then usually what I try to do is get a good estimate on number, especially on a flock size that big. Get a number and then come back and do species, So for a flock that's 120,000 birds, that might look like getting the number and then coming back and get a percentage of X percentage is mallards, X percentage is this, That's pretty rare too. More often than not, I can get a good idea of species by species number.
And then that,
just because
just by looking at
so
it,
different.
You're just like, okay, that's because I'm looking at one of the posts and it said I estimated 141,590 ducks on the Illinois River Valley. It doesn't go into, well, maybe it does. No, it talks a little bit about divers and everything, but I mean, so you just fly it once, you get the number, and then you fly it again, and that's when you can start. Okay, that population's mallard, that's pintails, that's gadwall, widgeon, whatever.
Yeah.
Fuck.
It's a lot. It's it's a lot, and I said it before. It's not perfect. Right. These numbers are trend numbers that they're pretty good, but they're not perfect. And it's a long day. It's you get out of the plane. I've laid down on the couch in Mike's hangar and taken an hour long nap before I got in the truck to go home. It's a long day. And you get sick, I haven't gotten sick the last couple of years. But the first few flights of the year are always pretty rough. And we fly, so we start at the end of July, early August. We fly shorebird surveys. So we're counting shorebirds, and we just do that on the Illinois River. We don't do it on the Miss. And that's kind of like baby step one.
Right.
And then baby step two is in September, we start early teal and early waterfowl surveys. And so that's kind of like the big duck survey that we do. But there's just not quite as many birds here yet. It's mostly teal. And that's kind of like baby step two, kind of walking yourself into it. Not a lot of water on the landscape yet. The birds are pretty concentrated. And then in mid October we start the big survey, and so we're flying from the end of August until the first week of January, once a week every week, except we take about a 2-week break in October. Um, so it's a long stretch. You have just enough time each week to recover from the flight to get ready for the next one. But it's Aaron. Some people eat to keep from getting sick. Aaron was an eater. He had a little bag that he carried with him full of candy, and he had to constantly be eating something to keep himself from getting sick. I'm the exact opposite. If I eat in the mornings, I can eat lunch. So we stop in Quincy, Illinois, along the Miss to fill up on fuel and get us some lunch. And I can eat lunch then, but if I eat in the morning, it's usually not good for me.
Got a throw up bag?
So it's Mike. So Mike loves this story, but how I started was in the back of the plane. We were doing the study that I talked about earlier, where we were looking at how accurate Aaron was counting the birds and how much we disturbed the birds. I sat in the back seat of the plane, which is almost worse. I'm convinced that it's worse to be in the back seat. And I would just look at percent flooded and like wooded coverage and those types of things that Aaron didn't have time to get to. And the second or third flight that I flew, I got sick, and it hits you. You don't really. It hits you all at once sometimes. You just don't really feel it, and then it's over. And I was reaching for a bag. I got it up to my mouth in time, and like one little bitty drop hit Mike on his back shoulder, and you would have thought that I threw up all over him. And to hear him when he tells this story now, he tells people that I threw up all over. You know, like I like took my belt off, climbed up, and was like puking in his lap. But that was probably the first time that I got sick, and you feel great afterwards, you know, just like any time, but you're pretty drained.
You get those sweats and everything. And,
yeah, it's not good. And I didn't know then. So I was trying to eat in the morning to make it better because I saw Aaron doing that. And it took me a few flights to figure out that was not for me.
He wasn't going to be sick anyways.
Right.
I don't understand because I've been in a boat and been seasick. I've never been flight sick, and I'm fixing to get on a jet, so I'm doing that so I don't be sick. But on a boat, you can't get healthy. I mean, you can't get nowhere in a boat to be where you're not sick. I can't imagine in an airplane trying to find a place where you're steady.
Right. Well, I mean, when they flew with the dive bomb guys, Reese flew up right over Knox City. I think we might have lost him.
I think we did. Yeah, Reese did get sick in the plane. You can't get healthy. I mean,
but
I
wasn't there. Steady. I wasn't there, so I don't know. I might need to call him back. Because there was only room for Jesse and the two boys, my wife and the two boys. So I didn't get to fly up there. So I didn't see how quickly he got sick, but he did vomit everywhere.
I'm not into that. I don't want to get sick at anything I do. I do not like throwing up, but if someone else throws up, it's a party because I'm joining them.
Mm-hmm. Let me call him back. Real quick. Phone might have died.
It could have. That's it. All right.
Well, hell.
Just saw a headline. We'll flip this on here for just a minute. Brandon Ayuk, him and the Niners, they're gonna have to trade him.
Right.
He's gonna make $14 million a year. They say he's worth $26 million a year. I don't blame him.
Right.
I mean, he could blow a knee out this year and be done. They think he's going to go to the Redskins, but I don't know why the hell they got scoring McLaurin already. They don't need him.
Terry McScorin.
Mm-hmm.
Josh is not online.
Well, we lost Josh. Josh was a great guest. We appreciate him being on here with us. Very informative.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Boy, my head would just be swimming.
With
all,
what?
All that counting
Oh, I couldn't do it.
all day.
I would think that there would be a way to take a picture and to have put it in a computer and it'd do it all.
Maybe one day.
It's coming down the road, but it's another one of these AI deals. I mean, we're going to keep replacing ourselves by easy technology and not have no jobs at all.
You know what I saw today? There is missed call. Hang on, let me try this. Boop boop. There we go. Now we're back in business.
You gonna answer it?
I'm calling him.
Oh,
I'm ringing him, Jeff.
okay. I thought he was ringing you. Well, answer the damn thing.
No. Gotcha?
He's internet connection working on it. I just got your message.
There we go. Got you back. Can you hear me? Hello? No sound? Do. Anybody? Can you hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3. That damn Starlink is what it is.
God almighty, someone just sent me a meme, and it's a picture of a little kid in a hut in Africa, and he's got a shirt on, Me So Hungry.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, who sends these people these T-shirts?
Right.
It's terrible.
It says reconnecting. But what I saw is they're going to, sounds a little far-fetched, but they can take prisoners and they can implant something into their brain, and basically you will experience your prison sentence within a couple of minutes here. But like you'll get a chip implanted into your head, and like if you've got 10 years, you'll do 10 years of your prison sentence, but it'll only be a couple minutes here. And they're saying that could be the future of the penal system.
So you can do whatever you want to, and you're only going to cost you 2 minutes.
But you will experience 10 years.
I don't know about all that.
Or 20 or 30 or whatever it is. And I don't know. Jeff, I'm just telling you what I saw.
Heinous crime should be death penalties.
Not disagreeing with you. But
remind me Fast and the Furious when we get up here. I'm going to tell you a story I heard.
About Fast and the Furious?
Well, since we're not connected, I'll tell you now. I read a deal. What was the guy's name that got killed that was the Fast and Furious guy?
Paul Walker.
Did you see that now the big conspiracy theory is that Paul Walker was fixing to
I don't buy it.
the Bill Clinton deal? You don't buy that?
No. Anybody that dies unexpectedly had something on the Clintons or knew something about Epstein.
I don't
buy it.
I'm not debating that. I just told you what I read. Right. That's what I asked you about. Supposedly, Randy Quaid came out today with a list of people, and he said on video of the people that Hollywood has killed off that were doing things that the machine didn't like. I wouldn't be surprised. There's a lot of bad shit going on in Hollywood.
Right.
I mean, you think about it. They were the controlling force. They were the Facebook before Facebook.
I saw Candace Owens talking about something interesting. Basically, Hollywood is propaganda for everything else.
Yes, that's what I meant. They're Facebook before Facebook.
Like you would see a movie on something, and that would condition you for
what they were going to do.
What's coming.
They were wrong on the Jetsons. They took them a little while.
Right.
Most of the stuff, the Jetsons, I think what it was the Jetsons in the 60s.
I think so.
And they had wristwatches that you could talk on. They had cars that could fly. That's where they messed up. We still haven't got the flying cars.
Well, she was talking about how many movies are backed by Washington.
Yes.
The financial backing.
Yes. That's what I said. They were the Facebook. That was where everybody got their media. Because if you lived in small town Iowa and you went to the movies on a Saturday and they had something there, that's what you wanted you to know about.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I got you. Sorry about that.
No,
we
no worries.
It's kind of stormy here, and our power went out.
Oh, okay. We thought your phone might have died.
Yeah, no, I was on my
Laptop.
But yeah, sorry about that.
No.
So I'm on my phone now.
No worries at all. We were about to start wrapping up anyway, so I mean it's not a big deal.
Yes.
So you guys will start flying in another month, and then you guys will go pretty hard and heavy for 6-7 months there.
Yeah. So we fly. Let's see. So we start In August, late July, early August with shorebirds. We'll fly those for about 6 weeks and overlap with the first 4 waterfowl flights, which are the early teal and waterfowl and early duck flights. We'll take a 2-week break, which usually puts us at mid to late October, and then we'll fly those surveys until the midwinter inventory, which is the first week of January. And then once the ice is out and the birds start moving back through in mid to late February, usually mid-February, we'll start the spring flights, and we usually fly anywhere from 6 to 8 spring waterfowl flights.
Very cool. Well, your busy season's coming up, and listen, we appreciate you coming on here. Stay safe out there, and hopefully everything goes well, and hopefully the haters won't be flooding your inbox this waterfowl season.
They'll be fine. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I appreciate it.
We appreciate you coming on.
Yep. God bless you and have a great summer, my friend.
Yep, y'all too.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a bunch.
Josh Osborn.
Interesting man.
Cool job.
A lot of cool jobs out there, and he's got one of them.
Like he said, can't believe I'm getting paid to do this.
That's when you know you got a good life.
That's when you know I'd have done it for free.
Yeah,
But the
there's a lot of
pay's
people that
pretty
like
good.
good jobs, but they ain't doing it for free. You doing this for free?
No.
And you got a cool job.
Brett Favre said he'd have played football for free.
What do you think about Aaron Rodgers' deal with him missing that camp? We're just catching a lot of shit over that.
I don't care.
Julian
The
Edelman
guy's
said it
40.
best.
The guy's 40 years old.
Yep.
He wants to go to the jungle to get his mind right through plant-based medicine. Let him.
Julian Edelman said it right.
Like an old dog.
If they start out 3-1 or 4-0, nobody cares. They start out 0-4, it's going to be a big problem.
Which there's a good chance that they're probably going to start out that way.
0-4?
Here's their schedule.
They got a lot of talent. Their deal is going to come down to Tyrone Smith. When Tyrone Smith was healthy, the Cowboys won a lot of games. When Tyrone Smith was out, the Cowboys lost a lot of games.
They start out week 1 in San Fran.
San Francisco's got his. They should lose that game. But San Francisco, I'm going to tell you what, this Brandon Ayuk deal is going to be a major part on San Francisco. They got a lot of mouths to feed there, but I'm not convinced if they lose a piece that San Francisco is going to be the team that they are. Sorry, John Manny, but that's just the way it is. Go ahead, who's your second?
Titans.
No, that's 1-1
In Tennessee.
That don't matter. They'll beat Tennessee.
Patriots.
There's 2-1,
Broncos.
3-1. So, anyways, what's the big problem? So that's 3-1.
Yeah, they might start out 0-1.
They might start out 1-1. The other 3 teams aren't any good. The Broncos, who the fuck's quarterbacking? That's what I meant. You had to think about it. That's
Who
how
is
bad
it?
they are. I don't know if it's going to be the kid that they drafted, Bo Nix, or but they said Bo Nix has not looked that good. There's another kid in there that's doing really good, they think. So, anyways, Zach Wilson maybe.
Then they got the Vikings at 8:30 in the morning.
Okay, they're 4-1.
Then the Bills.
I think they're 5-1. They're 4-2 at least.
Steelers, Patriots, Texans. They've got
Steelers and Patriots after that.
Yeah.
They're going to be, after 8 games, they're going to be 6-2, 7-1, or 5-3. That's still a pretty good season.
They've got the AFC South, so that's kind of a easier path.
Got the Texans.
Titans, Colts, Jaguars.
That's actually probably the most competitive division in football amongst themselves.
Yeah, because you got to get to
The
10 and
Texans
6,
are probably
10 and 7.
the Texans are probably should be the best team there.
They should.
But those other 3 teams all are pretty close. I mean, the Tennessee is definitely the worst. And Will Levis didn't play that bad, and they've given him better receivers. So
Right.
I'm ready for football. We got, I guess, 3 weeks and training camp starts.
Then they've got the NFC West also. So you got San Fran, Rams, Cardinals. What's the other one?
Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle. So
You know what? The
schedule's
NFL
not terrible.
You want to know something about the NFL? The NFL's got it where other sports don't have. The NFL does not have a lot of really terrible teams. We got some teams that have some quarterback issues. And that's the key. And I've seen where the NFL is now wanting to implement a quarterback salary cap per team, so it doesn't kill the rest of their cap. Because the Dallas Cowboys are in that boat. If Dallas pays Dak $60-65 million a year, they're going to have to let CeeDee Lamb or Michael Parsons go.
Right.
And it's just the bottom line. You can't keep your homegrown talent. But there's not what is the worst team in the NFL?
Probably the Patriots.
Okay. And who else? Redskins, Giants. They've both gotten a lot better.
They've improved a lot.
That's what I'm saying. The Broncos,
Yeah.
the Raiders.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just not a lot there's not on any given Sunday where you're going to have a team that don't have a chance to win a game usually. And,
Panthers.
That's probably the worst team in football, if I was guessing. Their quarterback, that quarterback they took was terrible. That was a terrible draft pick for them. Terrible.
Ron Rivera backed his Chase Young pick over Justin Herbert.
Ron Rivera's not coaching football anymore, is he? That was pretty stupid too. But you know what? When Chase Young come out, he looked like the next Myles Garrett.
Yeah,
and he's terrible. I don't think he has a work ethic.
And I didn't pay much. I don't ever pay much attention to the draft. Did Justin Herbert have like a high pedigree? Because he came from a smaller. He came from like Washington, right?
He came from Oregon. Ran a good system, but I think he was the 4th or 5th quarterback even taken that year.
Right.
You want to know?
He was not. He. I don't know if he was projected to be Justin Herbert that we see now.
No. He wasn't. Quarterbacks are so overrated. There's a guy named Achilles Smith. You've never even heard of him, have you?
The name.
He played for Cincinnati. They drafted him with the 2nd pick in the draft. Mike Ditka offered everything for him. Fuck, he was out of football in 2 years.
Right.
He won the underwear Olympics. You know, Anthony Richardson won the underwear Olympics. They got everybody in fantasy football is predicting Anthony Richardson to be so good. Well, I had him last year on my fantasy team. He was a good running back, but he's not a passer, and so I don't know. I think I don't know. So I don't know the Herbert deal. It's easy to say that now. It's hindsight's 2020. But Chase Young was a terrible pro.
It was Joe Burrow, Chase Young, Jeff Okudah, Andrew Thomas, Tua, then Herbert.
Okay. Burrow's a stud. Okudah's a stud. Andrew Thomas, I think he just got a big new one of them has not been good. I don't remember if it was Andrew Thomas or the other guy. Tua was good. So Justin Herbert didn't go in a bad spot. I mean, so who knows? Go on down a little bit and see who was taken on there.
Henry Ruggs, 12. Tristan Wirth, 13. He's still playing.
What's the
Becton.
yellow stuff? Is that people that were been all pros or something?
I'm not sure. Let me see.
I don't see what.
I don't see like a.
It don't say what it is, but C.D. Lamb stud. Look at all the guys taken in that draft though. Jonathan Taylor was in 2nd round. Go to the 1st round of the picks again.
Well, I was hoping to see what that yellow dictates.
You got Clyde Edwards-Helaire hadn't done shit.
T. Higgins, boy, Cincinnati home runs.
Yeah, on that draft, of course they did. Very good deal.
Brandon Ayuk, Jordan Love.
Yeah, Brandon Ayuk's the one that's fixing them bolt.
Justin Jefferson.
Great player.
Philly's got to feel good about that.
Jalen Reagor, boy, what a draft pick that turned out to be. They could have had Justin Jefferson. But it's like everything else. It's easy to look back and say.
Denver, Jerry Jeudy.
I don't think he's that bad still.
Henry Ruggs.
That's too bad. That's a horrible situation. But the other places haven't learned by that.
No.
I mean, they let him come out of prison and talk to these guys about driving, and maybe some of these fuckers will slow their ass down.
Pro Bowler is what orange means.
Okay, there you go.
So
I thought Okudah had been in a Pro Bowl. I guess he hadn't. Well, all right. Thank y'all for listening to us. Have a great week. Be safe. Have a great 4th of July. Boss Steel Reserve Hunt. Come to Squad Fest. We'll be doing a giveaway with Hook and Gaff Watch at Squad Fest. We'll have a watch we're going to give away. Thank y'all for listening to us. God bless you and have a great week.
Drink, don't drive. Do the watermelon crawl. Check out all of our sponsors. Go check out Double T British Kennels, Ducks Unlimited, Hemp Hill Farm. Use our promo code BHP. Pacific Calls. Use our promo code BHP25. Stanfield Outfitters, Alpha Outdoor Specialties, Mallard Bay, Mitch Hall Chevrolet, Lucky Duck, Looking Glass Podcast, Shin Gear, Dirty Duck Coffee, Dive Bomb Industries, Boss Shot Shells, and MOR Graphics.